Hello, everybody. Give me 1 second. Getting my stuff together. Let me select. Uh-oh. TikTok want to do this all the time. Hi, everybody. I got my hair on today. It's time for the hairdresser. Hi, everybody. Y'all come on in. Tap, tap, tap that screen. Share it out the live. Make sure you send your heart me. We have our moderator here, Miss Sianca. Hello, dear.
Hey, Mama, how you doing?
No. Somebody calling you. You famous?
No, it's good. Come on, don't make me blush. Don't make me blush.
Hi, Misty. Hi, Thickums. Hello, OVC. How is everybody tonight? We look. Tonight was the north of the south. we are North Carolina strong tonight. Our candidate earlier in the live, our first town hall tonight was from North Carolina, and we now have another candidate from North Carolina. The first one was in the 5th district. This one is running for the 10th district. I myself used to live in North Carolina, in Wake County, which is District 2. And Miss Sianca currently lives in North Carolina, and she
District
is in
9.
District 9.
Yep.
So we are North Carolina strong tonight. We have another OVC vet in here who is also from North Carolina. And I want to say where you grew up was District 1, I think. So yeah. So we know what we're talking about when it comes to North Carolina. I lived there for 6 years. So we gonna test these folks. So y'all make sure Nick, I think that was that's District 1 from what I looked at. So y'all come on in. Like I said, tap that screen. Make sure you're sharing this out. Let me make sure I put it on my repost, and so people can come on in here. If you hold down the screen for the host box, it will drop down friends for you, and it will send it out that way, and that's how we can see the actual shares. When you do it from the share button, it only counts as one share. I hate that. I want to see the shares. So hold down the host box and then go send. I don't care who it is. Send it. And then you can even hit the more at the bottom and send it to some more people, because you probably send stuff to those people at the top already all the time. Send it to new people so that they come up in here and they get this good word tonight.
I think I am, Misty. I think I am. I think I am in Richard's district. I know I'm in District 9. That I know for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to remind myself with other North Carolinian candidates that they're not in my district, because I'm so used to my districts. I have to like kind of dummy myself down to where, okay, so like we have like District 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me a copy of your background or somebody?
I say, baby, this is New Year's. We is celebrating. We is gold.
Look, I'm still in Christmas mode. Look, give me a present, okay? Give me a present. I am good, okay? I love Christmas. Tap the screen. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. I'm glad you all are here.
I just sent it to you.
Thank you. But I love Christmas, Butter. I love it.
I do. I love Christmas. Is my favorite time of the year. But you know what's about to be my new favorite time? November 2026, where we gonna get some more people that
Oh
know
yeah.
what
Whoop,
they
whoop.
doing up in there. Okay, all right. So we as Sianca's trying to get her background together. When she come back, she's gonna give us a little background information on Wes here, and let us know a little bit about him and and what he has going on.
You know what? This gold sure do look good on me.
I know, right?
Sure do look good on me. Who doesn't love gold? I gotta plug up my thing here. Okay, so I had my computer said, "Look, you better plug me up or I shut down." So
Okay.
can't have that
So tell
happening.
us a little bit about is it Caudle?
Yes, about Mitchell West
Yes.
Caudle. So he is in the North Carolina District 10. So he's a Democratic candidate, running for U.S. House Representative to represent North Carolina's 10th Congressional District in 2026 election that is happening when? November, correct. Yes. So
Yep.
he's born and raised in the Yadkin Valley on family land that's been in his family for more than 6 generations. That's a long time. So I want to say Claudia for some reason, but that's not his name. Caudle upbringing was shaped by lessons in hard work, community service, and entrepreneurship from his grandparents. So his grandparents' lessons guided his life and career. And he attended Elkin High School, earned an associate's degree from Surrey Community College, and completed a bachelor's at Arizona State University professionally. So Cottle has served in law enforcement. Okay, he also worked as a public school teacher and is a small business owner with experience in management and consulting roles, giving him a broad perspective on the needs of family workers and local businesses in his region. I'm not going to give away we're not going to give away too much because we want him to um, explain who he is, give him a chance to express who he is. From what we've seen in our research, he is an all-around guy. You see, he was in law enforcement. You see, he was a public school teacher. You see, he's a business owner, management consultant. So he should know what us everyday people are going through. So I see that he is here. Can my moderators or Miss Melanie, can you bring him up
Well, let's see.
for me, please?
There we go. All right, I sent the invite. And just a little quick information. I ran across this website earlier today that gives us the dates for each state's primary. So if you're interested at the end of this and when your state's primary is, just shoot me a little tag and I'll let you know. Currently, North Carolina's primary is March 3rd. March 3rd of 2026 will be the primary. So Mr. West here don't have long. he got to work fast. How you
Yes.
doing, West? Are you there?
I'm doing well. Can you guys hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can
Are you
see
able to cut your
you.
camera on?
It should be on. Hang on one second. Let me
No,
see
make sure
what
you
I'm not
hit the
doing right.
save.
Yeah.
I'll send you an invite. There we go. Did you see the instructions on how to get your background on?
I did, but I didn't see it until I just came on here. I apologize.
Okay, we can walk through it. It's
All right.
great to do some promoting, some free promoting. So we
That's
could put
right.
that up. So you just click on your screen,
Okay.
and then at the bottom there, you're gonna scroll all the way over till you see an arrow.
Okay, got it.
Okay, while
Okay,
he's
when you
doing
see
that, what I
that
do right back.
arrow, okay, when you see that arrow, click on that, and then you're gonna get another bar of stuff. Scroll that over to the left, and you're gonna see green screen.
Got it.
Okay, you're gonna click the first one with the arrow down,
Okay.
and then it should allow you to grab a picture. So if you hit the plus sign, you can go get that picture if you was able to save it. So once you hit the plus and you add that, you hit save.
All right. I don't have the image saved here. Hang on one second.
No problem. Take your time.
Where
Like
can
I
I
said,
get
it's free advertisement, baby. You got to. It's gonna
the background that you want me to
people.
use? Where the
People stop by. They just be scrolling through, and they're like, "Oh, who is that?" They can see right behind you who you are, who are you running, and they might go check you out. While he's doing that, like I said, if y'all anyone needs would like to know when their state having their primaries, just let me know. You can even inbox me if you like, and I'll get that information to you. I'm in the state of Maryland. I found out mine is in June. So someone asked earlier, and I was like, hey, I don't know. Let me go look. So yeah, Maryland is June 23rd. So it's all over. I want to say the earliest ones are in March. I don't see anything earlier than March at this moment. So you at least got till March to make up your mind which candidate you want to vote for. It's my opinion and my opinion only, not the opinion of OVC, but I truly hope that candidate wears blue. Okay. So
What happened? What happened to
what
him?
happened? No, he's gone. He went to get the picture, so he's saving it to his phone, and boom,
there we
there
go.
it is. Perfect. That's why I said free advertising. The name nice and big and bold. But people just scrolling through, we'll see and like, who's this West guy? Let me check him out.
That's
All
right.
right, Miss Sianca, take it away.
All righty. Welcome, Mr. West. How do you say your last name? How do you pronounce it?
Caudle.
Caudle.
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't want to pronounce your name.
All
All righty. So, thank you everybody for being here with Our Vote Counts, OVC. And I'm going to give you the spiel on who we are about. So, OVC, Our Vote Counts, is a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds. I'm going upstairs, sorry. United by a shared commitment to empowering voters and promoting candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, and accountability in the upcoming elections. Formed by a collective of educators, veterans, small business owners, students, and community advocates. Our Vote Counts represents the strength of unity across geography, race, and ideology. While our stories are different, our mission is the same: to ensure that every voice is heard and every vote truly counts. Through voter education, candidate outreach, and community engagement, we support leaders like Mr. West right here, who are ready to serve the people, not special interests. By working across state lines and elevating local and national issues, we aim to increase voter turnout, inform public dialogue, and build momentum for lasting change. Our vote count is more than a name. It's a promise, a movement, and a rallying cry for democracy. Together, we are shaping the future, one informed vote at a time. So that was a long line of things, but that's who we truly are. And I want to thank OBC for hosting the town hall tonight. This is very special to me. Um, but I mean, Melanie knows I am in North Carolina. I'm in District 9. I'm in Hope County. So, Mr. West, welcome, 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 and to everybody that is here. So, Mr. West, can you give us who is Mr. Caudle? Who is he?
Certainly. You kind of touched on my bio already. Um, I'm the only candidate running in this primary, actually in this district, that is from this district, born and raised. As you said, a product of the Yadkin Valley. Grew up on the same land that my family's had for over 6 generations in Yadkin County. I currently live in Mooresville in southern Iredell County. I have a background in law enforcement, public education. I own my own small business. I work in the public business sector. I've been a consultant in management and worked in 2 North Carolina House campaigns. I ran in 2018 and 2020 as a campaign manager. Coincidentally, in District 90, which is centered around Surrey County, but the incumbent that we were running against is Sarah Stevens, who happens to be the candidate for state Supreme Court running against Anita Earls in North Carolina. A very big race, one of the top races here in the state in 2026. So I have a very intimate knowledge of that race too. I also work in nonprofits. I volunteered. I serve on the boards of a few different nonprofits, focusing mainly on disaster recovery as well as harm reduction in our population that is facing addiction and helping those individuals as well as their families. Um, that's my background in a nutshell. I will say I get a lot of questions about why politics. How'd you get into this? So I tell the quick story of as a 4 and 5 year old, I accompanied my grandfather to the Wilkesboro Mall where he ran a storefront for Ross Perot during the 1992 presidential campaign. They happened to have a pinball machine there, so I played pinball while my grandfather politicked. But I guess that was what kind of planted the seed for me.
Not the pinball machine. You taking it back. You taking it way back. I remember those days. You remember the pinball machine, Melanie?
Absolutely. I've never been good at it, but I remember it. I just press the buttons on the side as quick as I can.
Right. That's what I do. Thank you for giving us that input. So, this is just to break the ice. Okay, I think it's one of the favorite questions candidates love for me to ask, or I love to ask them. Name a specific character from an animation, anime, cartoon, Marvel, DC universe, wherever it is that you used to watch when you were a kid. How did that character influence you then, and does that character still influence you now, and how and why?
Man, that is an icebreaker. Also, kind of put me on the spot. Um, um, I would say that there's probably a couple. I think that I always admired the Chicken Hawk and the Foghorn Leghorn cartoons, the Looney Tunes, just because he was small stature, but just seemed almost invincible and was ready to go up and take on anything at any moment. That was always. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'5", and so I've never been the smallest statured person, but I always liked the fighting spirit in that guy and that character. And also kind of maybe Winnie the Pooh and his eternal optimism and willing to overcome things and encourage his friends. So those two probably would be, those are the first two that come to mind, but I'm sure I could come up with several more given a few minutes, but we'll move along there.
Those are two great choices there.
Oh my gosh.
My answer would be Wonder Woman because, baby, she couldn't stop her. She was everything. And yes.
Yes, that lasso of truth would get people. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. Thank you so much for answering that question. So we're going to do this. We're going to ask you various questions. We have like 6 categories we're going to ask. Like 2, maybe 1 or 2, depends on the time. And then we're going to do like some more rapid fire to make it more fun. Sounds good?
Sounds
All right.
good.
So we're going to start with economic development. So many small businesses are are closing because commercial rents and operating costs keep rising. What specific actions would you take at the federal level to help local businesses survive and grow?
So I'll probably say this a couple of times as we go through this, but my opinion of government is not to be a problem solver, but to level the playing field and give everyone equal opportunity. And I actually ran into a future constituent last night that was asking me pretty much the same question. He had overcome some challenges in his own personal life, and was asking me, what would you do to help someone like me? He had served a prison sentence, so he was a felon. And he said, I learned a lot when I was in prison, and I came out and I'm a better person. I work, I have a good job, but I want to have my own business one day. Like, what could you do to help me with that? And, I don't want a handout, but what could you happen there? So I think that one of my small business, in particular, economic development points would be to create a system that makes capital more readily available to individuals that have an interest in starting their own small business, because nothing's cheap anymore. And whether you're wanting to start, in this gentleman's case was he wanted to start an auto detailing business, or if you want to start something in tech, or if you want to start your own construction business, mechanicking, things like that, you've got to have a location, you have to have equipment, you have to have all of these things that are necessary to start on day one. And that's one of the problems that face working class Americans, is that capital is not always easy to come by, and not everybody has family or the ability or has had the opportunity to save that money that's necessary. And the way I see it is, if we can help major corporations, if we can help these big businesses avoid taxation and avoid mismanagement of money, and pick up the slack for their lack of living wages that they pay, then why can't we help people that want to work for themselves and improve their own lives? So I would propose a system where we could inject capital on some level, and make it so that they give a business outline. They have a plan for what they want to do, and there's a quarterly check-in, some way of keeping track of their progress. And if they meet the requirements of the program, then those loans could be forgiven. That funding could be forgiven. It could be done through a system of tax credits, potentially, any number of ways. But I think that the key for our society is that older generations, there was opportunity. And my generation, I'll be 39 at the end of the month, and younger generations than myself, the hope of being able to do something that is going to pay the bills and allow you to save enough to retire just is not attainable. And I think that the role of government is to make sure that those goals are attainable.
Absolutely, and that is so true. Thank you for answering that question, because we do see the changes between our older generation to the new generation. It's like a big, huge flip, where opportunity was given
Yes.
to them. So my next one is about housing affordability. I know in my district, that's a big, huge thing. What can you tell us about your district housing affordability right now? And what are you going to do? And like in detail, how are you going to construct it where people from all walks of life, not just one particular demographic, but everybody, even people who are starting out, what is your plan for them?
Well, I think that a lot of the talk is centered around first-time home buyers. And I myself have not been able to purchase my own home. So I'm very familiar with how that feels, and how to be, being in that situation. And especially in this housing market where the supply is way down, there aren't a lot of houses that are available. And then when there are homes available, they're kind of one of two situations, where they're at or above the average home price, which I think is somewhere in the $400,000 range,
Yes.
especially in my district. And then, or it's a home that is in foreclosure, or an old home that's going to need $100,000 just to make it livable. and that presents its own set of problems. That makes it more difficult to get financing. That makes it more difficult to gain access to the funds that are necessary to purchase that home to begin with, in addition to the needs to repair it. So there's a lot of variables, and they're really none of them are good options at this point. So kind of break it down into a few different sections. There's been a lot of talk in the past few days, especially from Pat Harrigan, who is the incumbent here in the 10th district. And you'll see, I kind of see across MAGA, I think a lot of people are seeing across MAGA recently, is they're grabbing onto these talking points that Democratic and left-leaning individuals have been talking about for months and years now. The middle working class America and the challenges that they face. And one of the things that have come up, and Pat Harrigan has been bragging about promoting some legislation this week where it bans industry or hedge funds, Wall Street essentially, from purchasing homes for 180 days while they're on the market. And I think that one short-sighted aspect of that legislation that he has proposed is that, one, it's not going to really do much to bring the price of housing down. And I think what we'll see is when houses go on the market, people are going to know, hey, I've got to stick it out for 6 months, and the big dogs, the big money, can be back in this game. So do I want to wait 6 months and make another $100,000 on this property, or do I want to go ahead and sell it? So I think that with that legislation, if it were to actually go through and become law, you're just going to see a kind of a drag on the housing market in terms of the selling speed, where things now are, you're getting offers almost the day that it hits the market, and multiple competing offers and things like that. It's just going to slow down. The people are going to drag their feet because they know that if they can wait it out, they've got a lot more money on the table from those institutional buyers. Where we solve that problem is that we completely take it off the table, make it so that people that purchase a home have to use a social security number. That's something that is trackable. That's something that an individual is buying. Because what happens is, and what's going to happen if institutional buyers are people that own 100 properties or 1,000 properties, and they're wanting to put a limit on those. But what's going to happen is those big businesses are just going to go to Delaware. They're going to register a new business. They're going to get a new EIN, and then they're going to show up and they're just going to have 100 companies that own 50 homes, as opposed to having one company that owns 5,000 homes. So I don't really see that legislation that's been proposed as an actual solution or really having any positive impact. I think that where you increase the ability for people to actually be individual first-time home buyers is to make it so that you have to have a social security number for a home purchase transaction. That's one aspect of it. Second is mortgage rates are a little bit higher than what we are traditionally used to over the past few years. That's been a big topic of discussion. But if you look back on historic lending trends in the late 80s, early 90s, the interest rates were in the 9% range. But the difference is the average home cost, and as well as the ability to put money down. So where you can lower the percentage points on these interest rates would be to help with maybe offer a across the board $10,000 down payment assistance. And that's going to help bring your initial mortgage rate down a little bit, which, you take a point off of a mortgage rate right now, that's going to be $400, $500, $600 a month. And that adds up quickly. Whereas, and I'm kind of veering off here, but there's been a lot of talk in the past couple of weeks out of the administration about Treasury purchasing back mortgage-backed Treasury bonds, and the $200 million proposal, I believe, is what it was, or I can't remember the exact number, but it's only going to have like a 25 point impact. So that's going to be like 0.25%. And that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 or $70 to $100 a month on average home prices now. So again, that's not really something that's making a huge impact on first-time home buyers on the affordability or the supply side of things. So there's a lot of complex issues that go into the housing market, but I think that figuring out a way to help people afford their homes and also increasing supply, but also making sure that purchasers are individuals and not just people that are looking to purchase a home and flip it, or major companies looking to purchase a home and rent it out. Those are the things that we have to overcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. And when you were saying about how people can go up to Delaware, register, get an EIN number, come down, birth out a whole bunch of homes and and people really don't know the behind the scenes of that.
Mm-hmm.
They
Very
really
complex.
don't. And when I first heard about that last year from one of our associates, I'm like, wait, what? It's just like, yeah. I'm like, wow, And I don't know how it is in your district, but in our district, there have been lumber stealing here because of the wood. The people trying to build homes, but they can't because people are stealing wood now.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the tariffs and things of that nature. So thank you so much for answering those questions. I'm going to hand it off to Miss Melanie. She's going to take you through healthcare and women's health. Take it away, Melanie.
All right. Thank you. So as she said, that we're talking about healthcare and women's health. So a lot of the times, one of the things stopping people from being a first-time home buyer is medical debt. So we want to talk about how we are going to help the American people get out of medical debt. So if you can give us some of your ideas on how you would structure a policy, or what's your plans to lower medical debt for the American people?
So medical debt is huge. Obviously, that wouldn't ask this question if it wasn't. But in a country that is supposedly as free as we are here in the United States, that is supposedly the richest country in the world, that is supposedly the richest country that has ever existed in the history of the world, why do we have families that are losing absolutely everything because they got sick and had to go to the hospital?
Yeah.
That's a lot of times are things that people can't plan for, they didn't plan for, they can't help it. So it's like our system punishes people. And I'm a big history person, so I look back at like, how did we get here? One of the big things was that when Permanente, the guy that Kaiser Permanente, the company is named for, back in I think the 60s or 70s, he was big buddies with Richard Nixon. And there was federal legislation that was proposed and passed that allowed healthcare to go from a nonprofit care system to a for-profit economic system. And when healthcare is an economic system, there's only a select few people that win in that situation. So we really have to focus on, how do we truly feel about Americans in general? And what are we willing to do to step up and make life what we see as the American dream in terms of, getting the health care you need, not losing everything you've ever had because of it. And I think that those steps start with addressing the insurance industry. Why is the insurance industry, why are there individuals that are sitting at a computer that have no medical background, that may not even have a college degree necessarily? And I'm not one to say that a college degree is the end all be all for success in this world. But they have no background other than they filled out an application, they made it through an interview process, and they were said, okay, you're going to answer these phone calls, you're going to look at these reports, and if it doesn't meet these specific company-wide metrics, then we're denying this claim. And we hear it all the time. I think there was last week, there was a big story about a 20-something-year-old guy that his rent was due. His health insurance had declined to cover his inhaler, and he made the decision to pay his rent as opposed to pay $500 some for his inhaler. He had an asthma attack and he died. And, again, we hear stories about that all the time. So addressing the insurance industry, that's a billion, maybe $1 trillion industry now. And when money like that is involved, when you see revenues like that, then you know something's wrong when it comes to taking care of people. So kind of cutting out that middleman, making sure medical decisions, healthcare decisions are maintained between a patient and a physician, and also making sure that policies are put in place. And I'm not going to try to speak like an expert on this, but make sure that policies are put in place that if a person needs a procedure, if they need medical care, necessity to maintain their quality of life and to survive, then it should be available.
Mhm.
And funding for that, as I research these topics to try and make myself a little bit more well-rounded,
Mhm.
when you look at healthcare and the cost, a lot of people don't understand that we are on the verge of a physician shortage in this country because what we pay to hospitals in particularly often goes back into their ability to fund their medical schools that may be associated with them, to fund the programs that do the residencies for new doctors. And I can't quote the material off the top of my head right now, but I saw where there's like been a significant percentage decrease in the number of new physicians entering into the fellowship and the residence program.
Yeah.
So when you look at it and add that to the statistics of, there's a large percentage of physicians that are leaving the profession because they get tired of dealing with the insurance industry and the problems that arise from that as well. So we've really got a multifaceted growing problem. It's not getting any better with a shortage of physicians and the inability for physicians to give the care that they know is necessary and for patients to receive it. And I'll end with this because I know I'm kind of getting into a ramble here. I am a full supporter of extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies for the next few years with the understanding that Congress has to come together and work toward a solution. We can't continue to kick the can down the road, either side of the aisle. But to wholesale jerk healthcare coverage from millions of people, that's not the way we go about it. That's not the American thing to do. Some would argue that is totally American, but in the America I love and believe in, that's not the American thing to do. So we have to extend those subsidies. We have to make sure that people are getting the best care available in this moment and work toward, I'm not going to say that universal health care, single payer Medicare is the ultimate solution, but we
Okay.
have to work to something that is, affordable and something that works for all Americans.
You must have read my mind because I was going to say to you that there's a lot of countries that's somewhat equivalent to
Hmm.
the United States that do offer universal care for
Yes.
their population.
Hmm.
And so I guess I was going to ask, would you support something that would be someone a candidate we had on the maybe last night or night before, but he said something where I'm not sure if you're familiar with how Medicare works, but with Medicare, you can also opt into a Advantage plan, which is through one of the major companies like Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shields or United Healthcare, right?
Hmm.
And so if we do something similar to that, where there's like basic coverage for preventive care,
Hmm.
but you can opt into getting some extra stuff if you want to go with one of these insurance companies, which I said would probably be a win-win for everyone. We don't put the insurance companies out of business, but we also make sure our American citizens are taken care of. Would you support something like that?
Yes, I have read something about that program, and I believe that that's the first step. I'm not saying that that's as far as we go, but I
Right.
think, listen, I may not be very politic when I say this, but nothing about politics happens quickly. The bureaucracy is going to exist because not everybody's going to be on the same page. Um, so I'm very clear when I talk to future constituents and I speak to in public events, is that I have a lot of great ideas. A lot of candidates have really great ideas, but there has to be a general understanding that it takes time. And I'm not making an excuse for not accomplishing these things.
Right.
It's just that we have to have a realistic approach. And I think that this program that you're mentioning, where everyone has Medicare essentially, which guarantees the necessities of healthcare. And then if you wanted to have other supporting things, then you go out and you get the Advantage plan, which
Mhm.
as it stands now, I oppose how that exists today. I think that when you qualify for Medicare as a 65-year-old, 70-year-old, you've put your time in, you've paid into the
Yeah.
system, you've earned that right. Then that system should cover everything that you need. You should not need to
Agreed.
pay an additional tax in the form of having to buy more medical insurance to cover what is supposed to already have you covered for everything that you deserve and what you've earned.
Correct.
But extending that to younger people, putting them on a Medicare plan where the government can actually negotiate with pharmaceutical companies and can lower prices through negotiation, which is what happens around the world. You know, a lot of people don't
Mm-hmm.
understand that the United States, as an American, when you go get your prescription filled, you're paying a premium worldwide because
Mm-hmm.
those companies have lobbied our government throughout the years, and the government said, you know what, we charge them what you want. We're not going to negotiate the best price. You don't have to give us the best price. And again, that's something this administration has come to in the past couple of months. And the term is not coming to me at the moment, but they came out and said that we have to be offered, you know, that best price that you offer to other countries, which is a great thing. You know, there's, you know, small victories, you know, they come
Yeah.
with a price anymore. So we have to be proud of what we get. I hope that we can see that sooner than later. I hope that that's not something that takes years to get in place. But absolutely, I think that a Medicare enrollment for everyone and the option to improve or increase access to more selective procedures through an advantage style plan would absolutely be a great deal. And I think it's a great first step to work toward, you know, a potential Medicare for all solution and or universal health care.
Okay. Well, I see in your platform you said you are kind of focused on veterans and seniors as one of your focuses there. But we also know that they struggle with things like long wait times or just having the facilities necessary for their needs. What kind of policies will you support to expand access to affordable, timely health care for seniors and veterans?
So I'll break it into the two, veterans and then seniors. Um, One thing I think that really sparked my interest years ago, probably when I was in high school, I grew up in what is now the 5th District of North Carolina under Virginia Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear people talk about Virginia Fox, it's one of those situations where they don't really care for her because she doesn't do a whole lot for her district. But the one thing that would always come up with, like, can you tell me one positive that she's done? Was, well, my dad or my grandfather or my uncle or my friend's dad uh, couldn't get an appointment at the VA, and their family called her office, and she got him an appointment the next week. Um, that's all fine and good. Like, I hope that I'm so lucky to earn the support of voters by doing the bare minimum, like a lot of representatives do now. And it raises the question, why do we need to reach out to a representative to get an appointment in the VA to have access to a promise that was made to millions of Americans that sacrificed and volunteered to serve in our military? So that's the first part of that, like what drew me into the veterans care. And then you look at our medical facilities within the VA, and particularly like Walter Reed outside in Washington, D.C. That's one of the premier healthcare facilities in the world. You know, when the president goes and gets their healthcare there, you know, it's probably a pretty decent medical facility. Why is it that our entire VA system can't be a premier healthcare organization? And I had a discussion with a veteran here locally a few weeks ago. They run a support group for veterans that are dealing with post-traumatic stress and kind of just reintegrating into the world post-military service. And I proposed that with the capabilities that we have as a country, with the money that we have as a government, and with the significant promises that are made to our military veterans, why can we not have districts across the country that have a premier veterans healthcare hospital, and then have satellite local specialist and primary care physicians? Like, every American deserves the right to succeed, and every American deserves, you know, health care and an education. But our veterans we made a promise to our veterans, and we do a horrible job of living up to that. And obviously, healthcare is one of the main things that I think we really have to pick the ball up on as a society and as a government and as a country. And my proposal would be to expand the VA, not to shrink it by thousands of individuals like this administration has done. Privatization is often not the solution. Throughout a number of things, you could look to privatization that may work in the realm of improving specific things, but it notoriously limits access, and it makes it more difficult for everyone to participate in when privatization becomes a thing. So I will always stand in opposition to privatizing our VA programs. And I think that it has to be expanded. And I think we have to really hammer down and focus on our veteran population, because we've sent them to wars throughout our history over the past several decades, very fruitless and pointless conflict. And I know a lot of friends and a lot of families that have lost out because of that. And the fact that we leave them hanging is just unacceptable.
Agreed.
I'll kind of break off.
Sorry, Sianca. We done left you hanging, boo.
No. Oh, he's a veteran.
No, you.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you.
Are you a veteran, Sianca?
I am.
Well, thank you for your service.
Veteran. You're welcome. And thank you so much for looking out for people like me and others. You said that you could just see me beaming. That's why I had myself on mute. I was like, yes. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So you said you want to touch on the seniors real quick?
Yeah, I'll briefly touch on the seniors.
Yes, do that.
One, having the great benefit, pleasure, honor, whatever you want to call it, of my grandparents living very long lives, especially my great grandparents. I grew up with four of my six. I have a stepfather. 4 of the 6 potential great grandparents that I could have grown up with, I had around until I was in my late teens. So they lived very long and fruitful lives. 2 of them, well, one, my great grandmother really is the only one that spent considerable amount of time in nursing facilities. And in my professional experience working in law enforcement, I got to spend, unfortunately, some time dealing with things that happened in long-term care facilities, elder care facilities. And the one thing I'll touch on for seniors now, of course I have more, but I don't want to get too far in the weeds on it, is that the quality of senior care homes and the quality of senior care that we give to our older generations has got to be better. Just like most things that we're going to talk about, we've got to do far better. They need to be safe places. They need to be healthy places. They need to be fed food that is edible, not school lunches, which we can touch on that when we get to education. They deserve to have dignity in their old age. And go back to the debt. A lot of people can't afford long-term care, and a lot of people can't afford not to work to take care of their loved ones. So we really have to work on a system that takes care of our older generations. And the baby boomers aren't getting any younger, and that's only going to increase the need over the coming years as they continue to get older, and put a strain on a system that, quite frankly, just has not kept up with the times to prepare for what's coming down the tracks very close.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So if anyone in the audience has any questions for Wes, please request up or put your questions in the chat. I will ask him, or Sianca will ask him those questions. One of the people in there said that's how Jesse homes keep winning in North Carolina, is just embedding themselves into the communities, that people don't want to vote against them. But we do a rapid fire question session. So we're going to ask a couple of questions that is like yes or no, or just a quick 1-word answer. The first set, which I'll be doing, is political. And then the second set is going to be a little fun. So, and Sianca's going to do that for you a little later. So I'm going to start with my first questions. Economy or environment? Which needs fixing first?
Economy.
Okay. Electric vehicles or public transit investment?
Public transit.
Okay. Education funding. Teachers or tech first?
Teachers.
Okay. Immigration policy. A pathway or protection first?
Pathway.
Okay, pathway first. College debt. Should we forgive it or should we reform it?
Both. I'm gonna cheat on that one a
Okay,
little bit.
both. Um, Federal or state control over education?
I think that there needs to be a cooperative approach to public education. I think, and that may be something we talk about a little further here in a little bit, but
We will.
yeah. So I think that it needs to be cooperative. I'm not a full blown the federal government's responsibility, but I also don't agree that it should be strictly a states' rights thing anymore because of how migrant our population is, especially with the economy and jobs the way they are, people, families having to move. There needs to be some uniformity for children as they transition across the country into different school systems.
Okay. Renewable energy or clean fossil tech?
Renewables.
Okay. Uh, should should banned books ever be justified?
No.
No. Last question. I was going to ask if you could fix one issue with a magic wand, but instead something else came to me. I hear so often about all the bad things about this country. Name me one thing you love about this country
Man,
that we don't need to fix.
there's a lot of things. My personal opinion is if you're not trying to improve something, then you're not trying in general. So I don't know that there's necessarily anything in particular that we don't need to try and improve on.
Okay.
But I do think that, man, so much has changed in the past year. That's really tough. I used to would have said kind of like the freedom of expression, but that's
Mhm.
obviously under attack anymore. Um, I'll
That's why
tell you,
I
man.
asked this because I'm feeling like
Yeah,
everything just seems
I mean,
chaotic at
I
this
mean,
moment.
things, I try to be an optimist, and
Me too.
one of the things that drove me here was I decided I could just either sit around and talk about it or get up and try and do something about it. And that's actually your question's one I've not been answered or one I've been asked, and that's probably the hardest question. I'm not trying to avoid your question here, but
I
I'm really
know.
struggling on one thing, the way that
I
everything's
know.
going right now.
Agreed. I'll leave that to you. Maybe
Maybe something will come to me. I'll keep
something
that
to
in the
come
back of
to
my head.
you, or by the time you finish this, you'll say there's people like you and OVC that want better for democracy.
Yes.
So that's the end of that for me. I am going to pass this back to Sianca for our next topic.
Yes, and my next topic is my favorite, public education. We all know about the public school systems in our counties. I know, and for me, my thing is funding. And what I mean by funding, not just the property taxes and not just the teachers, but for the kids, like school supplies, classroom supplies, field trips, because now spring is coming. So what's coming up? School trips. So parents can they can barely make ends meet in their own household. So
Mhm.
what can be done to fund the funding to be better for the schools so the parents are not overloaded with, oh, I got to get more paper towels for the classroom. Oh, I got to get more Clorox wipes for the classroom. Things of this nature, because we get this every year. It wasn't like that when I was in school. My class, my teachers had everything, had everything. But now it seems like the parents have like this big gold mine. Okay, now you buy everything. I'm a teacher kid, but you buy everything. But not a lot of families can afford that. So what can you do to help out schools that are in that situation? Not every school district is in that situation. It's just some that are not as fortunate, I should say. That's the wrong word, but they're not as funded as the other.
Things are tight for most
Yeah.
families. Yeah.
Yeah. So what can you do to help us out in North Carolina? Well, in
So,
your district, I know not for me, but I mean, in your
right.
district, I know your district.
So, it's really across the board. Education, public education has been under attack for decades now, from the right. Again, it's either a privatization push or they want to have this narrative about indoctrination. So this is really not a new fight that we're facing. Um, but really the way that they've accomplished this is defunding public education, in a number of ways, whether that be just strictly reduction in per pupil spending, a deflection of responsibility to other entities. I know here in North Carolina, a lot of talk here in the past couple of weeks has been this audit from the auditor's office that shows the North Carolina education lottery increase their revenues by billions of dollars, and the amount of money that's actually going to education is like 16%, and it is declining. And it was sold a decade or more ago when we got the education lottery here in North Carolina, that all those funds were going to go to student-based spending, and that just simply doesn't happen. So, I think that it goes back to promises made, promises kept. If we're going to say that we're going to do something and we're going to use, in this example, the lottery to help fund schools, then that's what that money needs to go toward. And there needs to be accountability for people at the state level. That's obviously a General Assembly level thing here in North Carolina, but there needs to be accountability. And I'll let everybody look and see who's been in charge of the General Assembly at a near supermajority for the past 15 plus years. And make your own assumptions on who's responsible for that. But then, local property taxes are responsible for capital expenditures in terms of our public schools, the buildings and the upkeep and the maintenance and the property and things like that. And we're seeing across the board, a lot of places are lowering property taxes, or they're having to increase property taxes to help cover other public investments. And when those situations arise, they have, it's not adding to the pot, it's spreading it thinner and thinner. So schools across the district are underfunded from a capital investment point. They're decades old. They're leaking. There are mobile units. They're already at capacity when new schools are built. For example, here in Iredell County, there was a school bond that was passed, I believe, in 2020 that was supposed to cover a new middle school for Mooresville Graded School District and a new high school for the county, Iredell Statesville schools. And kind of coincidentally, when that bond kind of was coming up and ground's supposed to be broken and those projects are supposed to be started, Moms for Liberty and all their good graces took control of the county school board. And they just broke ground a few months ago on the high school. There's a lot of, it's already past capacity when it finally opens, whenever that happens. While at the same time, the middle school was built and opened within 2 years. And they are in their second full year in that building now in Mooresville. So, it falls back on who your leadership is, who's making the decisions, and what are their focuses. And I would urge everyone to please be aware of who is running for those local offices, because they are the ones that directly impact your schools and directly impact the things in your community, much more than I will be as a congressman in Washington, and even really more than what your people in Raleigh are doing in terms of things like that. And I'm kind of going all over the place trying to cover my bases here.
You good?
I'm a strong proponent of public education. I taught school for a year and a half. It was something I kind of fell into. I was a coach at a middle school here locally, and the opportunity came up when an educator left at Christmas break, kind of unexpectedly. And I stepped into that role thinking it was going to be one semester, great experience, and I'd go off into the sunset and do something else. And it ended up lasting a year and a half. And that really opened my eyes to what our teachers face. I tell everybody that'll listen, if you made a good living as an educator in North Carolina, and you just got to focus on teaching the kids the curriculum and the things that they needed to learn in whatever subject you happen to be teaching, it'd be the greatest job in the world. Because there's nothing like walking into a classroom and kids looking up to you, respecting the things that you're giving them, having those good, positive, reinforcing relationships, and seeing their eyes light up when they learn something new. Like that's really, I never felt that necessarily, and I really didn't expect it when I walked into it. So that experience really opened my eyes. And then your class, the bell rings, the class leaves, you go to your planning period, and you're going to meetings, and you're going to trainings, and you're having to do professional development, which is all great, but it's overwhelming. And it's just, the pay is horrible. The expectations are not just to be a teacher, but you have to be a social worker. You have to be a healthcare professional. I worked in the lunchroom about as much as I did in my classroom during the period that lunch happened. I served lunch because it was difficult for the school system to find lunchroom staff to fully staff the lunchroom. So
Wow.
when my grade level would go to lunch, I'd throw on some gloves and I'd jump right in there and I'd be scooping and slinging food like I was working at the Waffle House. So we have to do better for our
Yeah.
schools, and I think that education in general is a solution to a lot of the things that ill us as a society. Public education. North Carolina used to be the education state. We used to be the example for public education in this country. And like I said, over the past, decade and a half or so, that's really gone downhill because of leadership in Raleigh. And that's unfortunate because education leads to workforce development. Education leads to opportunity. Education leads to innovation. Education leads to kids being able to see a positive opportunity ahead of them. And when they have something to look forward to and knowing that they have an opportunity to succeed and to achieve things that they set, ideas and goals, that reduces crime. It reduces the drug problem. All the things that we like to focus on and talk about, that are the things that are going to be the downfall of America. If we invested in public education, I think that a lot of that problem would go away. So, I could talk all day about that, but I think that public education really is the root solution to a lot of the things that ail us as a country.
Absolutely. Thank you for answering that question. We're going to go to political. Sherry, how are you? Good evening.
Hi, guys.
How are
Hi,
you?
Wes.
Hey, how are you?
I'm
You have a
doing
question for
great.
Mr. West?
I do. Okay, so Wes, just want to congratulate you on your run for Congress. It takes a lot to run,
Thank you.
so I can understand that. I just want to know, I was looking at your district and stuff, knowing that it's a heavily red district. I think it's a better time than ever for any of those districts that are going to be flipped for candidates to get in there that are Democrats and kind of win over some of those seats. Just looking at some of the recent polling and stuff, the district looks like it's still roughly at a +9. But speaking that it's a red district, it has some possibilities. What are you doing as a candidate to kind of win over some of those people that are struggling with this administration, but still kind of have a little support behind the current congressman that's in there, but just kind of bringing some realization to what this administration is doing? What are you as a candidate trying to do to kind of get out there and win over some of those people?
Right. So one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about electoral politics, and I'm not assuming anybody's stupid, but it's, there's a lot involved, and I've learned a lot since I've gotten into it, and I've been involved on some level for several years now. But the way the district is constructed is a gerrymander, and that was very intentional. For Scythe County, so the district, I saw there was a question earlier about where in North Carolina I'm located. So I'll take this opportunity to say the 10th district is made up of 4 entire counties: Iredell County, Catawba County, Lincoln County, and Yadkin County, 4 very Republican very Republican counties. And then they split, not necessarily in half, but they split for Scythe County, which is where Winston-Salem is located in North Carolina, for those that may not be familiar. And it is a very blue county. And they did that very intentionally. They split for Scythe County between the 6th Congressional District and the 10th Congressional District to negate that Democratic vote there. So when you look at the election, Everybody knows there's a primary and then there's the general. So a lot of times candidates really get caught up in trying to appeal to the typical primary voter, which statistics show are usually, if they're Democratic, they're usually a little bit further left. If they're Republican, they're a little bit further right than the average voter in a general election, which is more centralized to their kind of outlook. So to perform well in the primary, you have to have a certain way of talking to Democrats because those are the only ones in North Carolina. It's open primary, so independents can vote in the Democratic or the Republican primary. But you really have to win the Democratic vote to win the Democratic primary. And one thing that I'm very conscious of is that when I win in March, I don't just get to turn around and keep talking to the Democrats. Like, I don't think a lot of people, a lot of candidates necessarily understand that, in North Carolina, our primaries in March. Across the country, they vary throughout the rest of the year leading into the general election in November. But, you know, come March 4th, when whichever one of us is successful in winning the primary, the people we're talking to completely changes because we've won the vote that we need from our side. Then the real game starts of earning the vote of people that don't necessarily agree with you on everything. And I'll take the opportunity to say that in any conversation, but especially as a candidate, I very intentionally don't come into a conversation and say, hey, I'm a Democrat, I'm running for office. I may say, hey, I'm running for Congress, and these are the things that are important to me. But I'm very intentional in not saying which side I'm on, because let's face it, if you saw me in person, you probably would make the assumption I'm a Republican. I have the twang, I have the look. That's just the facts of the matter here. But when you talk to people, we agree on most things. I think that if you go out and you just meet somebody on the street and you start talking to them, you can talk and you can agree on 85, 90% of the things. But the moment that I say, hey, I'm running for the Democratic nomination, the whole mood changes a lot of times. And that's something you, as a candidate, you have to be very cognizant of, is that we really have to focus on the things that matter to everyone. And we've seen that across the country this year in the special elections. I'm not adding the statistics from Tennessee 7 with Afton Bain because I haven't looked them up. But in the 5 special elections for Congress that occurred in 2025 prior to the one in Tennessee, the vote had shifted to the left 16.5 points. So if you look at the current makeup of the 10th district here in North Carolina that I'm running for, it's R8, R9, depending on the day and how Cook Political Report's feeling about it. In November at the election, during the election in 2024 in November, it was R11. And before they added Forsyth County into it, it was like R14. So just the way that things have gone without even campaigning to a majority of the voters in this district, they've lost anywhere from 5 to 6 percentage points just based off what's going on and not being presented with a better option. So I'm very intentional on how I talk to everyone. I'm very intentional on the promises I make for my campaign. I'm very intentional on the things that I say are important because I want to focus on the things that are important to everyone. And that doesn't make me a moderate. I wouldn't consider myself a moderate. But I understand that being victorious in March is one thing, but it doesn't mean anything in the long run. You have to win in November to effect positive change. So I focus on affordability. I focus on jobs. There have been 2 big business closings in Catawba County here in the 10th district in the past month. Well over 500 jobs that were lost, and both of them cited the tariffs as a major cause of that. And with tariffs and things like that, manufacturing is not coming back. Manufacturing jobs were on exponential growth in the previous administration, and it has pretty much bottomed out over the past year under this administration. And education, everybody can kind of get behind education when you present it as a benefit to our society. Healthcare, of course, is a huge thing. Several 100,000 people in this district stand to lose their subsidies. The average subsidy, I think, in the 10th district is going to, or premium, if the subsidies aren't renewed, is going to go up like $1,400 on average, over 100% increase. You talk about people's pocketbooks. You talk about the things that affect their jobs, their ability to get a job, and the things that are going to affect their families and their children or their grandchildren. Um, and you win what you need. And we've seen
Listen.
that style of politicking, that style of campaigning, be successful across the country. If you're up on politics, there was a state Senate seat in Kentucky that was elected, I think, in early November that shifted 42 points
Mm-hmm.
to the left. So that's a big reason I decided to run this year. Is if not this year, I don't know that there's ever going to be or has ever been a year. I don't think a Democrat has won this district in all its many shapes and sizes since the mid '60s. But I tell everybody, hey, if what's happened over the past year is any indication, we've just got to go out. We got to be smart. We got to talk to people about the things that matter to them, and MAGA does most of the campaigning for us. We just have to be very clear on where we stand and the priorities that we have.
You said you don't know if she up on politics. Her name is Politically.
It wasn't her.
No,
I
I was
guess I
just
was
kidding.
making a
I think he was talking
generalization
to
and
the
everyone that was
audience.
listening.
I was just kidding.
But yes, I agree with you, Wes. I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I think it's speaking that you're in an open primary state. We've discussed this in our political realms, but that some of those people are definitely going to step over and participate in some of these Democratic primaries as well. So you can definitely count on that. Just a little bit. Don't. But yes, I definitely agree. Like I said, I commend you for running. I think this is a great year for Democrats. I think that people are, they're seeing the effects of this administration, and they're more motivated than ever to kind of get out and vote in this primary. I have a great friend that's just joined the coordinated campaign there in North Carolina. So hopefully he'll get there and do some work for you behind the scenes. But yes, I wish you the best of luck in your
Thank you.
primary election there in March, and hopefully you succeed and go on to the general in November.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Sherry, keep an eye on your inbox. We might be sending you a little something, okay?
Okay, thank you. You can drop me
All
back
right.
down in the comments.
Thank you, Politically Sherry. So, man, I wish I could ask some more questions, but I know we're like running out of time because look, Wes he's giving a whole encyclopedia. Like if I could just go in your mind and just sit there and just read you just on it. Like you were just on it. Like I would talk to you for days at a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Melanie for our next topic. Take it over, Miss Melanie.
I echo those sentiments, Sianca, which is why I'm going to jump right into the heart of public safety and immigration, which,
Yes.
what we're dealing with today.
Especially in Charlotte.
Sometimes I ask questions are all around this, but we're going to go right into, we know what's happening in Minnesota right now, and what is happening with the frozen people, what's going on with that. So one of the main questions we get often from our audience is, how will you go to Congress and stop this Gestapo?
My main reply to that is, we have a constitution that outlines how things are supposed to work in this country. And the people that have been elected to office, and the majority right now, have completely abdicated all responsibility that's set forth in that document. Congress is supposed to offer oversight of all of these things. And where they fail to offer oversight, the Bill of Rights, especially the 4th and 14th Amendments, are supposed to protect citizens against the things that we're seeing every day that are coming out of our Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Department of Homeland Security in general. It's completely unacceptable. I'm going to try not to get my blood pressure up. So if you start seeing a vein pop out, tell me to take a breath. But, I worked in law enforcement, and I know what it's like to answer a call. I know what it's like to go into situations that you don't know what you're going to deal with. Never once did I put a mask on. And the fact that we have these people that, and it's coming to light now thanks to journalists that are still, haven't completely been silenced in this country. It's coming to light that the people that they're hiring they don't meet standards. They're being rushed through training. Throughout especially over the last few years with police, topics of police brutality and things like that, a lot of discussion centers around their training. And kind of like healthcare, if you look at law enforcement around the world, they go through extensive, extended amounts of time of training. And in North Carolina, I can speak to that because I have experience there in law enforcement, is you go through a pretty quick training class, and then kind of the real world training happens when you get your job and you're in your field training. And these ICE agents that are walking around American cities looking like they're getting ready to jump right into a battle in Vietnam, they're wearing helmets and masks and high velocity round
Gear.
plate carriers, camouflage, like that. That is, I have a lot of words to describe that. That might
I
get us
know. I
banned
know.
on TikTok, but it's unacceptable. And when I get to Washington, I'd say, I'll kind of get back to this, but I say I've got three promises. And that first promise is I want to get money out of politics, because I really think that until we get money out of politics, and people on both sides of the aisle are bought and paid for, but until we get money out of politics, not a lot's going to change. We can make incremental changes, but nothing wholesale that's really going to make this place better is going to happen. But hopefully, we won't have to wait another year to get a rein on our federal law enforcement within the Department of Homeland Security that's going out and brutalizing Americans, brutalizing people in general. The Constitution applies to anyone that is standing on American soil, and it's unacceptable, the things that are happening right now. So again, I hope we don't have to wait till I get there, and people like me and that will be elected in this upcoming election get to Washington. I hope that there's some kind of spine and backbone that happens, but before then to rein it in. But we have to enforce the Constitution. We have to adhere to the protections that are guaranteed to all Americans and all people within the United States, especially those that occur in the Fourth and the 14th Amendment and the right to due process.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, one more thing, because you did the good on that one with that answer. So all over the country, there's a major, with you being within law enforcement, we have been working on trying to bridge that gap between the community and police, and making sure that people really truly know that the police are there to serve them, to protect them, to keep them safe. But we also have to remind the police that they're there to serve us, protect us, and keep us safe. So what are some policies you would like to see being passed in your 2 years in Congress that will lend to that mission?
Well, you're going to try and get me in trouble with who I'm going to have to appeal to in the general, but I'll answer because I'm honest and forthright. One of the things that not a lot, but the bad apples in law enforcement, they either knowingly or accidentally fall back on implied immunity. When you have a job that you have a protection from being held responsible, then why would you really focus on making sure that you apply the law in so much as a law enforcement officer is supposed to equally? What prevents you from, stretching the truth a little bit? What prevents you from brutalizing someone if you know that the likelihood of being held accountable is slim to none? And I would expand the implied immunity aspect to politicians as well. I'll take this opportunity to plug this little tidbit that anyone may not be aware of, but in the unfortunate demise of a popular social media influencer back in the fall, everybody had a lot of opinions about that. And let me be very clear that the loss of life and murder is never acceptable on any front, on any ideology. That we're better than that. We're civilized, and that should not be something that we resort to. but a lot was made of people that had an opinion, and often those opinions were just reciting the individual's own opinions. And in particular, here in the 10th district, Wake Forest is the largest university and probably the most well-known university within the 10th district. There was an employee there that had made a social media post that had quoted that individual. And Pat Harrigan, the current representative from the 10th district, immediately got on social media and bragged about how he called Wake Forest and pretty much threatened them that if they didn't fire her, that there would be repercussions. And she quit. You know, a common misconception is that he actually got her fired. She did not get fired. There were safety risks that she was put at because of Pat Harrigan saying this and making it public. And the university was threatened. They had to increase law enforcement presence. And she ultimately decided that the safest and best thing for her would be to leave that job. And she did file a federal civil rights lawsuit against Pat Harrigan, which she absolutely should have, and he absolutely is liable for if so found in a court of law. But this administration and this Department of Injustice that we operate under, one of the federal prosecutors here in North Carolina, and I've not checked to see where this stands in several weeks now, but he has moved to try to shift that, I think, from the state to the federal courts. And he is arguing on behalf of Pat Harrigan that he has immunity as a member of Congress. And I think that most legal scholars would argue that that's simply not the case. But we've also seen that most legal standards in this administration, they kind of make them up as they go. So implied immunity, I think, is the first step in holding law enforcement accountable. And not so much, maybe not always accountable, but just making the onus on the law enforcement officer to do their job correctly. When I was in that job, I operated with the fact that I stood to be liable of things that I did. And not that I would have done much different had I not been held liable, because I'd like to think I'm a pretty decent individual. But, actions have consequences. It works both ways. Good guy, bad guy, bad guy, good guy. So I think that's the first step is just holding accountable.
Just so I'm clear. So you're saying if the police are being held held accountable more often, that will remind them of what they're there for and convince the communities that people actually have their back.
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense.
And our public servants, law enforcement, teachers, firefighters, EMS, they all deserve to be paid far better than they are. I'm not in the realm of defunding the police. I believe that there is a honorable responsibility within our law enforcement community, and a majority of people that put on a badge every day are good people that intend to go out and serve their communities honorably. But one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. And one last point I'll make on that, unless you got a follow up to it, is one thing that I saw and am aware of, having worked in law enforcement, is that there's a practice that is kind of unknown and unspoken, where if a law enforcement officer does something wrong, and maybe it's not criminal necessarily, but it's not up to the ethical standards of law enforcement or the standards of that agency, more often than not, that officer is allowed to and or requested to resign. And when they go and apply at another agency, there's no mention of it. So a lot of times those bad apples don't get culled from the crowd. They just get passed off to a different basket.
Exactly.
And that could be said for a lot of professions, but that is a problem within law enforcement. And I think that the accountability thing, falls back on that as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure for me talking to you. Miss Sianca is going to go ahead and give you our fun rapid fire and then take us out with our closing questions. So go ahead, Miss Sianca.
So I'm going to leave the closing questions and the closing dialogue for you, but Melanie, because Westo, he was slick. He was talking all this long time, so we won't get to the rapid fire. So we're going to challenge him. I see you. I see you. I see you, Wes. I see you. So, okay. Now, you ready?
I'm ready.
You gonna check your pulse? You gonna check your
Fire
pulse? You
away.
ready? Okay. Lemonade or sweet tea? Yes, I bought a mason jar of sweet tea.
I'm gonna blow your mind. Unsweet tea.
It's over. That's it.
Interview over.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
If I
Okay.
drink sweet tea, I'd weigh 700 pounds.
Not true. Not true. Not true. Okay, so my next question. Cookout or Hardee's?
Cookout.
Okay. All right.
You
Okay.
win a shot. You win a shot.
Okay. Okay. Fuller's. Okay. Fuller's is a buffet place. So Fuller's or Grandsons. They're both soul food, places.
I know neither of those, so I'm going to throw a local plug in to Pfeiffer's Hot Chicken in Statesville.
Okay. Okay. I have to check that out. I'll check that out.
Yeah,
Okay. How about this? You have Texas Roadhouse up there, right?
I do.
Texas Roadhouse or Outback?
Uh, Epic Chop House in Mooresville.
He said neither of those either. Okay.
All right. One more. IHOP or Denny's?
Neither.
I mean, Waffle
Waffle
House?
House. What are you talking about, Sianca? I thought you did in North Carolina.
That was a test. That was a test. There's a Waffle House here
On every corner.
On every corner in Fayetteville, because I'm on the borderline of Fayetteville and Hope County. So every corner there is a Waffle House right there. So thank you for answering those fun questions. I'm gonna hand the rest to Melanie while I enjoy my sweet tea here in a mason jar.
Enjoy.
Yeah,
Take it
so
over, Melanie.
I don't know if you heard, Wes, but I also have lived in North Carolina for about 6 years. First 5 years was in Raleigh, and then the last year was in Greensboro. So,
Okay.
which I like better. Actually, don't tell the capital. I like Greensboro better.
I'm
But
telling.
I would like you can't. I mean, like Waffle House wouldn't be a business if it wasn't for North Carolina. I promise you that.
Well, Georgia might have something to say about that.
Possibly. Okay, so well, let's see. We're going to end this with if elected. Well, no, because you already told me what your 3 things are.
Well, I only told you one of them. I'll tell you the other 2.
Okay, well, like if elected, what important change would you want to see and your constituents to feel after your first term?
So that's actually a great segue to my 2 other campaign promises. The first, of course, being to work on getting money out of politics and ending Citizens United. The other 2 are that because it's a 2-year term, one of the drawbacks, one of the things that people say they hate about Congress is that you get elected, you go to Washington, and you immediately start running for re-election. I don't want to go to Washington. I don't intend to be a career politician. I really will work to pass term limit legislation so that we don't have career politicians any longer. But one of my vows is to not campaign for re-election until 6 months prior to the 2028 election. And of course, if there's a primary, I would have to adjust that a little bit. But I'm not going to do a lot of campaigning anyway if I'm elected, because I want what I do to speak for itself. Which kind of segues into my third campaign promise is one of the largest complaints about the incumbent and about a lot of members of Congress is that they don't interact with their constituency. They're not available. They're not approachable. They don't have in-person town halls. They show up at very select small gatherings. And I'll even go so far as to say Richard Hudson, a current congressman from North Carolina and the head of the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, put out early last year that Republicans shouldn't do in-person town halls at all. And Pat Harrigan has not done one. He does his telephone town halls that he brags about having thousands of people in attendance for. But I'm yet to find anyone that got to ask a question in any of those that actually had a meaningful question to ask. So my vow is there's 5, like I said, there's 5 counties in the 10th district. And I don't know what the schedule will be necessarily, but I will make sure that my schedule allows for me to have at least 1 town hall per month, and I'll rotate around the 5 counties. And where time allows, I'll do more than 1 town hall a month, and I'll make sure that I'm hitting all the counties that I am always accessible. Because as a representative, I'm representing the people of this district, and I'm there to be their voice, and I'm there to be a voice for everyone in this district. So I want to know, and I even say this on the campaign trail, is like, I could tell you what I stand for, but what you see as wanting in your representative and the things that matter to you and what can I do on your behalf in Washington is as important as what I and personally want to do as a representative. So being accessible, not spending my time campaigning, and having what I actually do in Washington speak for itself and earn me those votes for reelection is my main focus. And if I don't do a good enough job, then come November of 2028 and January 1st of 2029, send my butt back here to Mooresville is all I got to say.
Okay. I mean, and it's funny. We were having a conversation last night, the OVC crew, and we were talking about a lot of candidates say that they don't want to be career politicians.
Mhm.
So one of my great colleagues said, then what would you do to make sure that if you are only a one-term representative, how would you make sure that the person coming behind you continue your ambitions for the country?
That's a great
Well,
question.
that is a great question and really an impossible question to answer.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly what's going to happen when I win this election, and when across the country, when Democrats flip seats, you're going to see state general assemblies and state legislatures immediately start redrawing districts. That's what North Carolina did following the 2022 election, when our congressional delegation of 14 seats was split 7-7, which accurately reflects the voting demographics of our state. They immediately went into precision surgical redistricting that gave them their present 10-4 advantage in Congress from the North Carolina delegation. So I know exactly what's going to happen come November 5th when they announce the results of the election. Is they are immediately going to call a special session, because hopefully we're going to we won't flip the control of our state legislature here in North Carolina, but I do think we're going to put a dent into their majority. They're going to, before they lose that power, they're going to immediately go into session, probably November 5th, at the latest November 6th, and they're going to start drawing new districts that make it more difficult for individuals like me to maintain those legislative seats. And again, that falls back on my whole promise is I'm not going to come and talk about it. I'm going to do it. And you're going to see what I do to work for you on both sides of the aisle. And that's what's going to get me reelected. You can draw me whatever you want to draw me. You can draw an elephant for all I care and put me in the middle of it. And what I do in my short time in Washington is going to speak volumes for my dedication and the promises that I made. And like I said, it is what it is. There's certain things you can control, and there's a lot of things you can't control.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Would you agree, Sianca? Oh, she went on teacup. That's okay.
Absolutely.
And Sianca, you said you live in Fayetteville?
Yes, sir.
So the first time I've worked in law enforcement in 2 different stints. So in 2009, when I first went into law enforcement, I spent 6 months. I lived in Pembroke. I had two good friends that were going to UNC Pembroke. One played baseball there,
Yes.
and they had an apartment. And they needed a roommate, and I decided I wanted to go into law enforcement. So I did my first training cycle at Robinson Community College in Lumberton, and I lived in Pembroke. So
wow, my Lumberton, yes.
And my buddy the buddy that was playing baseball, his brother retired from the Army. He was an officer, went to VMI, and he was stationed at Fort Bragg and living in Fayetteville. So a lot of Saturday nights were spent in Fayetteville getting dinner with his brother and his young family then. So
okay,
yeah, I'm very familiar with your neck of the woods.
College guys, and they was getting dinner. Okay.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of eating places in Fayetteville. Okay.
It is.
You go in there skinny, you come out fat. That's it. That's it.
Again, Wes, we absolutely thank you for being here. We wish you well on your campaign. I do have some family and friends still in North Carolina, so I will definitely make sure that they are looking into you if they're in your district, and if not, they can help you. Promote yourself, and
Absolutely.
so let us know how they can do that. Give us all
Okay.
your socials
All
and
right.
where they can go to donate.
So I have a website. It's westcaudleforcongress.com. It has a link to where you can sign up for a newsletter. You can sign up to volunteer. It also has a link to my Act Blue page. And shameless plug here. Working in nonprofits, I'm used to having to ask for money from the public. It's a completely different ballgame when you're having to ask more for yourself. But I was reminded once that I'm not asking for money for myself. I'm asking it for my campaign. And if you believe in what I'm doing and what I stand for, don't feel like you have to give a substantial sum. Certainly, if you're able to give a max contribution, I am not going to turn it down as long as you're not a corporate PAC. But at the same time, you'd be surprised what 100 people giving $5, what 100 people giving $10 can do. And certainly, I welcome a $25, $50, $100 donation if that's something that's within your realm of possibility. So please consider donating to my campaign. I'm running a very grassroots campaign. Fundraising is very difficult, especially a district that's not considered by the talking heads and the political know-it-alls of being a super competitive district. I think that that's completely false, especially in this year. And polling shows that we're polling ahead, or at least polling equal, depending on the source of the poll. So please consider a donation. That's huge, especially in a grassroots campaign like this. I am on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Threads, at West, like the direction, WUST, the number 4, NC10, 10. The number's 10. So that's at West 4NC10 on all the social medias. And again, my website is westcaudleforcongress.com.
All right, thank you so much. Well, Wes, we want to invite you, the audience, your mama, your cousin, everybody back to our next town hall, which will be tomorrow. We have another double header. And the first one will be with Nikki Porcher, and that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the next one right after that will be with Heath Howard. So, and that's going to be at 9. So if you are free for either of those times, or both, come through, listen to those candidates. They may be who you're going to be working with
Yes.
in your 120th class. So come through and listen to them. But we also do a town hall. I'm not a town hall. I'm sorry, a round table on Sundays. And round tables, we get the candidates together. They do some conversing and brainstorming with each other. Like I said, this could be your class, and y'all already could be on the same page when you head into them halls of Congress, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
be looking at your emails, and we'll send you an invite for that. As for
Absolutely.
everyone else, if you want to say something else before we head on up out of here.
Oh, no, I was going to say that, I get alerts when you guys go live, and when my schedule allows, I usually drop in and listen to a little bit of it. And there's some
All right,
really,
okay. All
really,
right,
really
West.
positive, really inspiring individuals that have stepped up to run. I don't think that politics is for the professional politician. I don't think that you need to have been a military officer or the CEO of a company to have a good level head on your shoulders and the ability to govern. So um, it takes individuals from all walks of life to step up and really make this place special, because we're a melting pot of individuals, we're a melting pot of skills, we're a melting pot of backgrounds. And it's long past time that Congress reflects that. So I really appreciate what you guys do, offering this platform. I have no idea how many people logged in tonight to join in on us. Maybe if you could send me that information, I'd be interested to know how many people participated. But what you guys are doing here is really what's going to make our politics and our country more successful, and a place that we're all going to really be proud of. So I really appreciate what you guys do.
Absolutely. Well, we will be uploading some of your video here tonight on our
Okay.
YouTube page. So you definitely can go check it out there. And Miss Nikki is our back of the house department. So she heard you. She might send you those numbers. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
let
you.
me remind you and everyone else who we are. We are Our Vote Counts, a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity like Wes, and ensure every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So make sure you join us tomorrow because your vote is your power. Your vote is your power. I thank you all. Thank you, Miss Sianca. Thank you, Wes. Thank you,
Thank you.
OVC. Thank you, OVC staff. We love you all. Y'all have a good night.